Mad Panic Gaming!
Awesome!
Wait, just a second. Now we've got to think here. Now let's see. What would Brian Boitano do? Yeah, what would Brian Boitano do?
Did someone say my name?
On August 13th, 1997, when I was just a lad of 10 years old, something happened that would change the world forever, and further warp my little mind in ways that I'm sure drove my parents crazy. And that, of course, was the world premiere of a little show called South Park, an animated series about 4 young boys living their lives in a small Colorado town, and dealing with the issues that every kid has to deal with at one time or another. Things like alien anal probes, evil mutated clones, a zombie apocalypse on Halloween, and of course Barbra Streisand obtaining the triangles of Zenthar and turning into a giant monster that destroys the town.
Mayor, Barbra Streisand is...
I noticed!
South Park was truly unlike anything else that was on TV at the time. It was extremely crass and crude, filled with foul language, toilet humor, and gratuitous violence. So of course, I immediately loved it and became an obsessive South Park fan from day one, often impersonating the characters and repeating things I'd heard on the show, which got me into all kinds of trouble at school. But I didn't care, because I'd found a new favorite show, and soon after I had South Park t-shirts, toys, and the VHS releases that featured introductions by series creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
And so now, sit back, relax, and enjoy An Elephant Fucks a Pig.
Somehow me and my sister were even able to convince my mom to take us to see the South Park movie, entitled Bigger, Longer, and Uncut at the movie theater. And to this day, I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in my life. Once Terrence and Phillips started singing Uncle Fucker, I thought I was literally gonna die.
You fucked your uncle yesterday!
Fast forward almost 30 years, and I've remained a big fan of South Park, which is still miraculously going strong to this day, and through the years has provided me with countless hours of hilarious entertainment and memorable quotes. But also in that great span of time, we've been graced with a big bunch of South Park video games, some of which are absolutely awesome, and some that are about as fun as an anal probe. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the myriad of South Park games to find out which ones are actually worth playing. So prepare your minds, your bodies, and your souls as we embark on this epic adventure into the world of South Park.
You farted. Somebody's baking brownies.
Let's get started with the first game ever based on the series, the simply titled South Park on the N64, which was released in December of 1998, and later had ports to both PC and the PS1 in 1999. It was published by Acclaim and developed by Iguana Entertainment, using the same gameplay engine as Turok 2: The Seeds of Evil, which was also released in December of '98. But whereas that game mostly received high praise from critics, South Park was much more of a mixed bag, definitely having some positive elements, but ultimately feeling very lackluster on a console that already had more than its fair share of FPS games, like GoldenEye, Duke Nukem, and the aforementioned Turok games. The story in South Park is pretty bare bones, but to be fair, in 1998, the show wasn't exactly known for its groundbreaking writing. In a nutshell, a comet made of concentrated evil is hurtling past the Earth, and as luck would have it, South Park is dead center in its flight path, meaning that the sinister influence of the comet is going to cause all kinds of crazy shit to happen all over town, i.e. a big bunch of enemies like killer turkeys, mutated clones, and space aliens will descend upon South Park to wreak havoc and terrorize its citizens. So basically the same thing that frequently happens there even without the influence of an evil comet. So the story is pretty weak, and honestly the cutscenes don't help all that much. They're fully voiced by the cast of the show, but they're also really short, and with a few exceptions, they're also not very funny. But it is always nice to hear Isaac Hayes as Chef. And if nothing else, I do still get a rush of nostalgia watching these again.
Hi, Chef.
Hello, children. Did you hear the news?
What news?
A big comet is headed our way. It's gonna cross paths with the Earth, and when it does, all kind of crazy, spooky stuff is gonna happen.
Spooky like how?
Spooky like you better get your asses indoors, children. I'm not kidding. Our lives are in danger.
What the hell is that about? Man, Chef is weird.
So, South Park is a first-person shooter, and it's definitely one of the weakest on the N64. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's an altogether bad game. The controls are fairly tight and responsive, you get to play as all 4 of the boys, and there's a wide variety of weapons that are mostly fun to play with, and fit well into the world of South Park. You start out with nothing but snowballs that have infinite ammo, but you soon pick up weapons like dodgeballs, a plunger gun, a Nerf dart style machine gun, and even Terrence and Phillip dolls that act as this game's grenades, exploding into a giant fart cloud on impact. And each weapon comes with 2 fire modes that deal more damage but consume more ammo. So instead of firing one plunger, you can fire several at once. Or instead of a plain old snowball, you can lob a piss-soaked yellow snowball, just to show your enemies you really mean business. And aside from the single-player story mode, there's also a multiplayer mode for up to 4 players that features a big bunch of characters from the show. And on paper, there's a lot to like about the gameplay in South Park.
I
Kick you in
fuck
the
on your
nuts.
grave.
Kick. Out of my way, dummy! I'm kicking some ass.
Where this game really falls flat is that it's extremely repetitive, and it gets boring very quickly. And this mostly stems from the fact that in every stage, no matter what the story calls for or what enemies you're fighting, you're always doing pretty much the exact same thing. Moving along a linear path and killing enemies until you make it to the end of the stage to trigger a cutscene, and progress to the next stage. And at the end of each series of stages, there's a boss battle, which again are all pretty much the same. There's a bit more fun to be had as you pick up more weapons, and the enemies become a bit tougher, but generally speaking, this game is just kinda dull, especially in the first handful of stages, where you're constantly throwing snowballs at a seemingly endless legion of turkeys over and over again, to the point that when you hear them making that gobbling sound, you literally want to grab a gun and put a hole in your TV set.
Cheesy poop, yeah!
Your only other real objective in the game is to prevent the tank enemies from reaching the exit of the stage before you do. But that's really only an issue as you get closer to the exits, and isn't much of a challenge anyway. If they could have taken a few cues from some of the other FPS games available at the time, and included some objectives other than just making it to the end of the stage, then I could imagine this being a much more fun game to play. But as it is, the gameplay is mediocre at best, and extremely boring at worst. And it doesn't get any better on the PC or PS1. If anything, it actually got worse since the visuals took a bit of a hit. Which, since we're talking about them, the graphics in this game were also kind of underwhelming for their day. The visual quality is fine, I guess, featuring more or less the same quality of textures and draw distance that you'd expect from an N64 game released in 1998. And the character models at least do an okay job of recreating their animated counterparts. But the environments in this game are just so damn bland and boring to look at. And you see the same areas repeated over and over again, until you are absolutely sick of looking at nondescript snowy mountain paths. And that goes double for the music, which is pretty bad and very repetitive, sounding really nothing like anything you'd hear on the show, aside from the opening sequence that features the show's original theme song by Primus. But on the whole, the visuals and sound design are every bit as boring as the gameplay is. As a kid, I owned the PS1 version of this game, and was such a huge fan of the show that I kind of forced myself to like it despite its many flaws. But now I can fully admit that even for the time, this wasn't a very good game at all. And all of those 6 and 5 out of 10 scores were totally justified. I still have some nostalgia for this game, and I wouldn't put it in the same class as games that have no redeeming qualities at all. But this definitely wasn't the best way to introduce South Park as a gaming franchise. And there are plenty of shooters on the N64 that are way better than this one. But on the other hand, none of those let you throw piss-soaked snowballs at your enemies. So at least for that, South Park can chalk one up for the win column.
Hello, children.
Hi, Chef.
Congratulations, children. The comet is gone and you saved the world from despair and destruction. Oh my God! They killed Kenny!
Dude, who's they? A safe fell on him. Well, we always say they. We always say they killed Kenny. That doesn't make any sense, though. Oh, yeah.
Baby, you know you're the one for me. You and me and her. Simultaneous, you and me. And we're on a rider. Simultaneous loving, baby. 2 or 3. Simultaneous. Ooh, come on.
The following year, in November of 1999, Acclaim would try their hand at a completely different kind of South Park game with the release of Chef's Luv Shack on the PS1, Dreamcast, and PC, and later on the N64 in December. And apparently their original intention was to make a second first-person shooter. But when the first one received a mostly apathetic reaction, they switched gears to a mix of trivia and minigames, meant to be enjoyed as a multiplayer party game. The setting this time around is the titular Chef's Luv Shack, a public access TV show where lovely ladies compete to spend an evening of passion with the big guy himself. But since there weren't any said lovely ladies available, their spots were instead taken by Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman, much to Chef's chagrin.
Roy, why the hell can't we ever get lovely ladies?
Sorry, Chef. The cheerleading squad had practice today.
All right. Come on, children. Here we go.
So first of all, for this game to be enjoyable at all, you'll be needing at least 2 players, though it's best enjoyed with 4, as it's essentially a mix of You Don't Know Jack style trivia and Mario Party style minigames. At the start of the game, you can choose how many rounds you want to play, with 8 being the maximum, and each round consists of 3 questions followed by a minigame, with the goal of finishing the game with the most points. But in true South Park fashion, the trivia questions are not at all the kind you'd expect to find in any other games like this. Instead, testing your knowledge of things like snack cakes, lesbians, and the 1991 Denver Broncos. And this is an instance where you'll want to play pretty much any version other than the N64, assuming you'd like to actually hear Chef read off these ridiculous and occasionally disgusting questions.
The thin flap of skin that runs from the base of the fireman to the scrotum is... Damn, Leonard Maltin. Sally Struthers was in a movie? Which... This classic lesbian poet wrote tongue twisters on the Isle of Lesbos. Like Miss Ellen, she's a very sexy girl. The kind you don't bring home to mother.
That.
Absolutely right. This country is world famous for its fabulous dykes.
During the trivia rounds, you also have the ability to shaft your opponent, as the game puts it, by forcing them to answer a question that you don't think they know the answer to, as answering questions incorrectly costs you points. And at random intervals throughout the game, you'll be given the opportunity to wager a big bunch of points on the next question, potentially turning the tide of a game in your favor or dooming yourself to a crushing defeat. Finally, you'll also occasionally get to spin the Wheel of Fortuitousness, which can earn you some extra points, force you to sit out the rest of the round, or take you straight to a gameplay round, where you'll have a shot at earning some additional points in your very own minigame. And speaking of, Chef's Luv Shack features 20 different minigames that are selected at random, And these range from a pie-eating contest and frog launching, to destroying snowmen with a dodgeball and shooting literal asses in space with Terrence and Philip. And each of these mini-games is the very definition of simple, often requiring only the use of 1 or 2 buttons, or sometimes just the D-pad. And while they're mostly fun once or twice, they definitely start to get old quickly with repeat playthroughs. But a little tip is that one player should always pick Cartman, as he actually has a couple of minigames that are exclusive to him.
Follow your dreams, you can attain your goals. I'm living proof. Beefcake, beefcake!
This is another game that I had as a kid, and can remember really enjoying it, even if it sometimes was a challenge to find people to play it with me. And I appreciated then, and still do, that Chef's Luv Shack at least attempted to mimic the visual style of the show, which worked out pretty good, even if it is kind of pixelated. Or at least the PS1 version is. The Dreamcast version looks quite a bit cleaner by comparison. Also, I appreciate that this game better captured the sense of humor of early South Park than the first game did. The sound design is also pretty decent, featuring appropriately game show style music, as well as the voices of Matt Stone, Trey Parker, and Isaac Hayes. And does it really get any better than when he sings Simultaneous Lovin'?
You and me and her, simultaneous you and me and you, simultaneous loving, baby, 2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't think so. And overall, I've got to say, I actually like this game quite a lot. I wouldn't go playing it every day, mind you, but every once in a while if I've got some friends over. This is perfect for a quick 30 minutes of fun. It was torn apart by critics when it was first released, but honestly, I'm sure I'll play Chef's Luv Shack again way before ever touching the FPS. If you haven't played it in a long time, or if you've never played it before, give this game a shot, and feel the love.
You dumbass hippie motherfucker, my damn ass is sore as hell!
Shortly after Chef's Luv Shack in January of 2000, South Park Rally was released for the PS1 and on PC, N64, and Dreamcast in the following months. And this was Acclaim's third game, and again an entirely different genre with a kart racer. So they really were just throwing shit at the wall to see what would stick. But this is another one of those turds that fell straight to the floor, because South Park Rally is one of the worst kart racers I've ever had the misfortune of playing. And I've played quite a few, as I do consider myself a fan of the genre, because it really is such a simple formula. Just take some characters from a recognizable IP, put them in karts, and have them race while throwing various projectiles at each other. And if that's all this game was, then I could easily see it being an enjoyable kart racer, because all of the elements are certainly there. You get a big cast of zany characters, lots of tracks inspired by locations from the show, and a huge variety of weapons that also tie into the show in some way, like cheesy poofs, explosive diarrhea, turbo farts, Stan's gay dog, and a prostitute that gives other racers herpes, which I guarantee you can't do in Mario Kart. So on paper, it seems like this would be a no-brainer for a fun and memorable kart racer. But for some insane reason, the developers at Tantalus Interactive decided that each race should be a test of the player's patience. They start out simple enough, just driving over a series of checkpoints in order to complete a lap, which is fine even if the track is a little over-convoluted. But after that, the game quickly descends into madness, requiring you to do things like grab and hold on to a cure for a deadly virus in an irritating game of keep away, as other racers try to ram into you and steal the cure, or picking up both a bow and arrow and shooting all of the other racers, or even grab a pair of Cartman's soiled underwear and drive them across a series of checkpoints representing different points in a wash cycle. This is precisely why South Park Rally fails as a game. Who the hell wants to do all of this frustrating shit when you could just be racing? I could see having these kinds of things in some sort of additional challenge mode or something, but not the main objectives for completing the game. It's ultimately just very frustrating and sucks all of the wind out of this game's sails. Which is really too bad, because as a kid I actually rented South Park Rally for a weekend. But instead of getting a simple Mario Kart clone, which is what I was expecting, I instead was met with the soul-crushing reality that I just have to find something better to do that weekend. Because despite being a massive South Park fan, this was one I just couldn't defend.
Stupid car.
South Park Rally did at least feature some okay visuals for the time. At the very least, the tracks are fairly colorful and detailed, and the character models look pretty good too. And there are a lot of characters to play as, but most of them need to be unlocked, and the means of unlocking them is very cryptic, so I've never bothered unlocking all of them. The sound design also isn't too bad, with a lot of the music at least incorporating some of the tunes you'd hear on the show. And all of the characters are voiced by their respective voice actors, and do have some pretty funny things to say. But the gameplay is just so damn frustrating and really not very fun at all. So this is one game that I can't recommend anyone playing. If you want to play a good PS1 kart racer, stick with Crash Team Racing or Speed Punks, and leave this turd in the bowl where it belongs.
That has got to be the biggest crap I've ever taken. Hey, Sharon. Sharon, you gotta come see this. Sharon?
What is it, Randy? Do you have any? Oh, Randy!
Will you look at that? Is that the biggest crap you've ever seen or what?
Now, there was one more South Park game that Acclaim had planned on publishing in 1999, and that's South Park on the Game Boy Color, which was developed by Crawfish Interactive, who you might also be familiar with as the developer of the Game Boy ports of the Street Fighter Alpha games. And they'd actually completed work on South Park and were all set to have it published. But at the last minute, series creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker pulled the plug on it, reasoning that having their vulgar cartoon converted into a game for a handheld that was almost exclusively played by young children probably wasn't such a great idea. So the game was scrapped and later reskinned using other IPs. But luckily, years later, the ROM for the completed game was dumped online for all to enjoy, which is just another reason why I'm such an enthusiast for emulation these days. Anyway, South Park on the GBC, how is it? Well, it's pretty good actually. It's essentially a puzzle platformer in the same vein as The Lost Vikings, where you take control of Stan, Kyle, and Cartman, with the goal in most stages being to rescue Kenny from his confinement, only to see him die in some horrible manner anyway, as is tradition.
Oh my god! They killed Kitty! You bastard!
You can swap between the three boys at any time, and they each have a couple of special abilities that you'll need to use in tandem to clear each stage. Stan is the only one that can attack enemies, and the only one that can flip switches, while Kyle can block falling objects with his hat, and even let the other boys use it as a springboard to reach higher platforms. Finally, there's Cartman, who is the only character that can move across water, and transports the other two boys by having them stand on his head. And he can also be thrown as a projectile to take out enemies, like a big fat cannonball. Overall, this game is pretty fun, for the most part anyway. There are some boss battles that are a test of patience more than anything, including ones where you'll literally just have to run out the clock. And this is a surprisingly long game, taking at least a few hours to get through. It's not an especially difficult game, and you can easily rack up a ton of extra lives if you're mindful to pick up the bonus items in each stage. But generally speaking, I enjoyed this game, even if it does drag in spots. At the very least, it's a lot better than I assumed it would be. I'd definitely play this again before South Park Rally. As for the graphics and sound, they're both pretty solid for a GBC game. It helps that the character designs in South Park are already really simple, but they are represented well here. In addition to the 4 boys, we also get appearances from Chef, Officer Barbrady, Damien, and the sinister Mr. Hat.
No! You hear me? You go to hell! You go to hell and you die!
They all do their animated counterparts justice, and the stages are pretty nice looking too, often filled with little jokes and vulgarities, which I found amusing. Plus lots of Kenny deaths to make you laugh. The music is nothing special, very middle of the road, but there are a bunch of voice clips from the boys, which are very distorted, as you might imagine. But it is still fun to hear them excitedly exclaim, "Kick ass, dude," after clearing every stage. Anyway, if you're a GBC fan and you've got some time to kill, South Park is a pretty solid little puzzle platformer. Give it a shot if you haven't already. After this initial bunch of games, aside from maybe some online Flash games, it would be quite a while before South Park was ever seen on another home console. Matt Stone and Trey Parker were really disappointed with the quality of the games that Acclaim had published, and decided to back out of the world of video games altogether for almost 10 years. But when they did start licensing South Park games again with the 7th generation of consoles, they ushered in a string of quality titles that actually did the show justice.
This is our town. A peaceful, humble place in the mountains of Colorado. But nah, our town is under attack by horrible, deadly beings, and I'm the only one who seems to know. If they reach the town center, we're all dead. We cannot let them do that. We must protect our town.
In October of 2009, Microsoft Game Studios published South Park: Let's Go Tower Defense Play, which, as the name implies, is a tower defense game that was released exclusively on the Xbox 360 through Xbox Live Arcade, which is a service that no longer exists. But this game can still be easily found online and added to your 360 digital library, which again is a reason I'm a big proponent of emulation in the modern era. Anyway, this is a fairly straightforward and simple game, as you might imagine, with each stage giving you a central location to defend from an encroaching horde of enemies. And you have a variety of weapons and traps that you can set up all around your fortress to annihilate your foes. Plus, you can take control of a handful of characters that also have the ability to attack enemies by lobbing snowballs at them, and then pick up the coins that downed enemies leave behind, which you'll be needing to erect more defensive weapons and provide them with upgrades. And initially, you'll just be dealing with a small army of ginger kids and a bunch of cows that have gone mad. But eventually, plenty more recognizable villains from the show will descend upon you, including hippies, crab people, literal demons from hell, and the most dreaded foe of all, Mongolians.
Ooh, I hate the Mongolians.
There's not much of a story really, just that the boys have to go from one location to another defending the town from hostile invaders, until eventually it's revealed that the real mastermind behind all of this chaos is the game's Japanese announcer, voiced with the utmost reverence and respect, as you'd expect from Trey Parker.
Oh no! Cuttlefish! Cuttlefish is about to come out of my asshole! Oh, here it comes! Oh, it's going to be a rat!
The gameplay itself is pretty good. Nothing too complicated, but okay for quick bursts of fun, and altogether it can be finished in a few hours. But a significant upgrade from the old days is that tower defense features visuals, writing, and performances that more closely mirror something that you might have seen on the show. And all of the cutscenes are done in a comic book style that both look really nice, but also pair well with South Park's sarcastic sense of humor. And I genuinely did get a few laughs while playing through this game. So while not exactly a masterpiece of game design, South Park Tower Defense is an enjoyable little game, and was a great way to ease South Park back into the world of video games. Something to test the waters, so to speak.
Final boss fight! Completo! All extra characters unlocked!
Gather around, children, and let me tell you a story of bravery and love. It begins long ago with the birth of a child so fair, so pure of heart, he would forever change the face of our world. His name was Eric Cartman. But to his friends, he was Eric the Awesome and Cool.
A few years later, in March of 2012, Microsoft published a second South Park game via the Xbox Live Arcade, entitled Tenorman's Revenge, in which Cartman's arch-rival and half-brother Scott Tenorman steals the hard drive of his Xbox 360 and escapes through a time portal, to which the boys give chase and end up in a distant future where Scott Tenorman has conquered the world with his legion of gingerbots. So it's up to the boys to get Cartman's hard drive back and set things right, which will have them coming face to face with numerous allies and enemies from their past.
Mr. Hanky!
Gosh, it sure is nice to see you boys.
Mr. Hanky, it's not safe for you here.
Aw, shucks, I'm fine. It's you boys I'm worried about.
Don't worry, dude. We totally got this.
Well, just in case, I've hidden special brown keys in secret areas. Discover those places and you'll find keys to the sewers.
Thanks, Mr. Hanky.
Howdy ho!
Tenorman's Revenge is, for the most part, a fairly straightforward platformer, where you battle enemies by either jumping on their heads or hitting them with a variety of weapons, as you collect time particles, which not only count for points, but also take time off the clock. And there are various other power-ups to find to restore your health and give you some extra lives. And at the end of each chapter is a boss battle against the likes of Scott Tenorman in a giant mech suit, Man-Bear Pig, and the Antichrist from the Woodland Critter Christmas episode, just to name a few. And all things factored in, this game will take between 6 and 7 hours to finish. But honestly, this is another game that's best enjoyed in short bursts, as the gameplay isn't exactly the most rock solid. It's a decent enough little platformer, but can get a bit repetitive after a while. But on the other hand, it does support up to 4 players at once, which is pretty cool if you can actually get some people to sit down and play it with you, as again, the Xbox Live Arcade on the 360 no longer exists. The visuals again do a great job of recreating the look of the show though, and the cutscenes and dialogue are even better than South Park Tower Defense, making this, at the very least, another game that'll give you some laughs while you play. And around this time is when there would also be a handful of South Park mobile games released for iOS and Android, like Mega Millionaire, Imagination Land, and eventually Phone Destroyer, which is the only one that I've actually played. But all of these games were just a prelude though, because soon after there would come a proper South Park console game that was unlike any other that came before it, and we would embark on an epic adventure that none of us would ever forget.
Here endeth the story. With his Xbox hard drive back firmly in place, the young and noble Cartman was able to finish all his quests. His friends laughed and rejoiced. There would be no need now to sit through hours of cutscenes and levels already played. But most importantly, the Xbox hard drive enabled young Eric Cartman to prosper into a man that would shape our world. I tell this story to you, young otters, so that you may tell it to your otters one day. The world is what it is, because Eric Cartman made it so.
Darkness falls, as the humans beg their king to save them. A noble king known only as the Grand Wizard. For 1,000 years, the battle has been waged, with only the bravery of the Grand Wizard to protect his human followers. But even though the Wizard King is so undeniably cool, the Drow Elf armies continue their attacks. They seek the humans' most treasured relic, stick of truth. But the tides of war are soon to change, as news of a new kid spreads throughout the land. In order to save the humans, the Grand Wizard must get to the new kid before the Drow Elves can manipulate his mind and use him to take the sacred relic from human hands. For whomever controls the stick controls the universe.
In March of 2014, the world was graced with the release of South Park, The Stick of Truth, a game that mixed the gameplay and customization of a classic turn-based RPG, with the humor and presentation of a collection of episodes of the South Park TV show, feeling almost like one of their three-parters, like Imagination Land or the Black Friday trilogy, putting you in control of the new kid, a silent protagonist who just recently moved to South Park and is potentially harboring a dark secret. You quickly become embroiled in the ongoing conflict between Cartman and Kyle, as they war over the titular Stick of Truth, a powerful artifact that grants the wielder complete mastery and control of the universe, which in truth is just a plain old stick. But in the imagination of the boys, it's an object that can completely destroy the world if it falls into the wrong hands. And this is one of the more entertaining aspects of Stick of Truth. It really is just the boys in town playing pretend and imagining that the stakes of their games are much higher than they actually are. But that all gets interrupted when an alien spacecraft crash lands in South Park and releases a toxic substance that quickly starts turning everyone and everything it comes into contact with into Nazi zombies. And eventually the entire town is in danger of being destroyed by a nuclear device. Unless, of course, you and your friends can figure out a way to defeat the forces of darkness, prevent South Park from being wiped off the map, and somehow still not get grounded.
Great job, men. Douchebag, for your heroic deeds and valiant self-sacrifice at the Great Battle of the Giggling Donkey, I hereby make you an official member of the Kingdom of Koopa Keep. Welcome to the KKK.
It's getting late. The Grand Wizard needs to go night-night.
Okay, Mom, thanks for pointing out bedtime for everyone.
It's a school night, hon. You and your little druid friends need to—
We're not druids, Mom! We're fucking warriors and wizards!
Oh, that's it. You're going to bed. The rest of you better get home, too.
The basic gameplay in The Stick of Truth is that of a fairly straightforward turn-based RPG, limiting you to having only one companion at a time, but it does offer you a lot of different customization options. And just prior to this, developer Obsidian had also produced games like Dungeon Siege 3 and Fallout New Vegas, so it's safe to say they knew their way around an RPG. At the start of the game, you choose your character class from the available Fighter, Mage, Thief, and Jew.
Jew, huh? So I guess we'll never really be friends.
Each class comes with its own perks and starting gear, though as you play and level up, you can start to mix and match different weapons and armor, and customize your abilities quite a bit. In combat, you can perform both melee and ranged attacks, and by timing a button press with the flash of your weapons, you can deal some extra damage. And likewise, when on defense, you can time your button presses to block incoming attacks and potentially perform a counterattack. But the real star of the show are all of your many special abilities, such as kicking your opponents in the balls, headbutting them with a football helmet, and the myriad of abilities your companions have, unleashing devastating combos, draining your opponents of their precious life force, and setting a legion of bloodthirsty rats upon them to devastating effect. And as you level up, you can upgrade each of your special abilities to be more effective in combat. You will of course be needing enough power points to utilize these awesome abilities, which can be restored along with your health by consuming items like cheesy poofs, snack cakes, and sugar packets. Also, performing certain attacks can leave residual effects on your opponents, just like in a traditional RPG. They can be charmed, put to sleep, or you can inflict bleeding, burning, shock damage, or something that you won't find in any other RPG, the gross out effect, where each turn your opponent will puke due to being absolutely disgusted by your actions in combat. One way of achieving this effect is by fishing some ammo, so to speak, out of the various toilets around South Park, and then lobbing them at your opponents mid-combat. Or the other way is by using your secret weapon, your uncanny ability to call upon the power of your farts in the heat of battle, as taught to you by the Grand Wizard himself in the bowels of Koopa Keep. It is a mighty weapon, but one that must be wielded with wisdom.
I shall show you how it's done, but first, you must take the gentleman's oath. You must promise to never, ever fart on anyone's balls, okay? Farting on an opponent is necessary, but farting on someone's balls is not cool. Do you understand? All right, then let's begin your training.
Aside from the combat, the Stick of Truth features a high level of customization for all of your weapons and armor, allowing you to imbue pretty much anything you can get your hands on with buffs for your offense and defense, max health and MP, and resistance to certain effects, on top of changing your character's appearance. And some of the weapons and outfits you have access to are, well, let's just say it's not the kind of stuff you'll find in any other RPG, or at least I don't remember there being any anal probes or dildos in Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy. You even get to use a handful of summons where characters like Liu Kim and Mr. Hanky will come to your aid, which are not only devastating attacks, but they're also pretty funny.
Ooh, this could be kind of fun.
Kein irdischer Vorgesetzter!
On the other hand, when you're not in combat, you're free to explore the town at your leisure, to interact with NPCs, build up your social media presence, complete side quests, and find hidden collectibles, such as the legendary Chimpokomon action figures. Also, as you progress, you'll unlock new abilities that grant you access to areas that were otherwise inaccessible before, and this includes being able to shrink down to the size of an underpants gnome, teleport using an alien anal probe robot thing, and various abilities using your farts. You can even throw farts at enemies from a distance before engaging in combat, to instantly gross them out, which is supremely useful. And even your companions each have a special ability of their own that can help you clear obstacles and get around enemies.
Oh, wow. Boobies. Must have. Must touch. Boobies.
And the layout of the town itself is very accurate to the show, allowing you to visit various landmarks and points of interest. At one point, you'll even need to venture to the far north of Canada, where the game's graphical style changes to something more in line with a classic Dragon Quest game, eventually having you meet the legendary duo of Terrence and Philip to undergo some advanced training.
These 3 pedophiles from Alberta will have their way with you unless you damage them all with one move.
Nagasaki!
That's it! You have the power!
So there's a lot to do in this game and a lot of ground to cover. And luckily, there are fast travel points where Timmy will pick you up in his carts and run you all over the map. And even after finishing the main story, you're still free to explore and complete any side quests that you may have missed. So regardless if you're in combat or just wandering around town, there's plenty to see and do in the Stick of Truth, and it's a ton of fun.
Step forward now and fulfill your day. Step forward now and fulfill your day. Your day. Your day. Step forward now and fulfill your day. Your day. Step forward now and fulfill your destiny.
So the gameplay in the Stick of Truth is pretty solid, offering up a surprisingly robust RPG experience. But the thing that makes this such an enjoyable game, especially if you're a longtime fan of South Park, is the absurd story, the hilarious writing and line deliveries, and all of the little Easter eggs and callbacks to the show. And make no mistake, this game pulls no punches when it comes to the uniquely lowbrow comedy that South Park often delivers. A few examples that come to mind are fighting Khloe Kardashian's giant aborted fetus that has turned into a Nazi zombie.
You don't understand. Khloe Kardashian was in here this morning. She had the biggest abortion I've ever seen.
Or giving Randy a fake abortion to help him escape capture by the FBI.
Get it off! Get it off!
Then there's the part where you have to shrink down and enter Mr. Slave's anal cavity to find and deactivate a nuclear device. And this is definitely one dungeon you don't want to crawl through.
New kid, you must find a way out of this place or you will surely die. The way behind you is blocked by the large sphincter. Make haste to the large intestine. All will be made clear to you then.
There's also a subplot involving Al Gore and his never-ending quest of defeating Man-Bear Pig. And if you try to block him on social media, you'll have a real fight on your hands. But the segment that probably made me laugh the most is when you have to fight the underpants gnomes that have snuck into your home. All the while, your parents are banging in the background. And there's even a boss battle that takes place on the bed, where you'll have to be mindful to dodge, certain objects.
Oh, shit! Low bridge!
Crazy shit like this is what makes the Stick of Truth a truly ridiculous, funny, and ultimately very memorable game. Has never before had a game done such a great job at recreating the feeling of participating in a true and proper South Park adventure, which has everything to do with the fact that Trey Parker and Matt Stone were heavily involved with the production of the game, and they, along with the rest of the South Park writing team, penned the story and all of the dialogue. Again, giving you the feeling not just in the visuals and sound design, but also in the progression of the story itself, that you're playing an interactive episode of the show, which would be awesome on its own. But luckily, the gameplay here is really solid too. It's a legitimately fun and engaging RPG that I have a hard time putting down once I really start to get into it. One thing's for sure, the Stick of Truth absolutely blows away any and all of the South Park games that came before it, and it's not even close. This isn't just a good South Park game, it's a great game in general, and one I can easily go back to any day of the week. But a big question was, where would South Park go from here? And would it be possible for anyone to craft a game that matched or possibly exceeded the Stick of Truth in awesomeness? I don't know, but my gut says maybe.
You guys sure about this? There's no other way. It drove our friend to madness and nearly killed us all. So what do you guys want to play now? How about Dinosaur Hunters?
Or pharaohs and mummies?
Let's ask Douchebag. What do you want to play next, dude? Screw you guys. I'm going home. Wow, what a dick. Myths tell of ancient times, when a new king united a kingdom torn apart by a powerful stick.
Hi, hon.
Shut up, Mom. There's no time to waste. I have to go back, change the present if I can, and find his cat. And in doing so, perhaps I can change what has happened to all of us.
In 2017, South Park Digital Studios teamed up with Ubisoft to release South Park: The Fractured But Whole for PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. And this is a direct sequel to The Stick of Truth, picking up right where that game left off with the battle between the forces of Koopa Keep and the elves of the Mystic Forest raging on. And you once again take control of the new kid, now the undisputed king of South Park. Or at least you are until the boys decide to stop playing their fantasy game and switch over to playing superheroes, donning their alternate personas of the Coon, Toolshed, Mysterion, the Human Kites, and a whole bunch more, all attempting to solve the mystery of where all the town's missing cats have gone, and collect a reward of $100, which will have them going up against a series of deceptive and deadly foes, such as the Raisins Girls, the 6th graders, the strippers down at the Peppermint Hippo, and a being so evil I dare not speak his name.
This is a trap!
I'm sorry, kids, but you left me no choice. He's still looking good, eating the Subway sandwiches. His name is Jared, and he's still looking good.
Eventually, the boys do uncover a sinister plot that involves the South Park police force, forming an underground cult and working to appease the Lovecraftian outer god known as Shub-Niggurath, explaining that the reason they arrest so many black suspects is so that they can be fed to the monstrosity, thus keeping it from unleashing its fury on the world at large, which is at once a hilarious concept, and also ties in with the fact that other Lovecraft creations like Cthulhu and the Elder Things have also appeared in South Park.
Huh? Oh, I see. I guess because cops feed African Americans to an elder god, they're racist. Shub-Niggurath is an outer god, kids, who must be appeased and whose coming was foretold by the great H.P. Lovecraft. But I suppose H.P. Lovecraft was a racist too. Oh, fuck. Was he really?
While all of this is going on, though, there's also a civil war of sorts taking place between the superhero teams of Coon and Friends and the Freedom Pals. And again, you become caught in the middle, using your unique gifts to battle the forces of evil, while being pulled in 2 different directions by warring factions. This time around, though, you get to craft what kind of superhero you want to be, choosing from 11 different character classes instead of just 4. And you even get your own tragic superhero origin story, provided to you by Cartman, aka the Coon.
And what you saw when you opened that door changed your life forever, and led you to fighting crime. You were too late, because when you opened that door you saw your dad fuck your mom. Wow, that's a pretty heavy backstory. You fight crime because you never forgot the night you weren't in time. And you saw your own father, the man you trusted, fuck your mom.
And speaking of choosing classes, there is a huge variety in the Fractured Butthole to choose from, and they vary wildly in the attacks and other abilities that they grant you, though you only have access to a few at first, eventually unlocking more and being able to mix and match the abilities of several different classes at once. And they include classic superhero archetypes like Blaster, Speedster, Mentalist, and Gadgeteer, each with its own set of abilities that can be used in different combat scenarios. And the combat itself is completely different from the Stick of Truth, this time featuring a 2.5D isometric perspective, and a large grid to move around on and attack with each turn. Each of your abilities has a different area of effect, with some only allowing you to attack the enemies that are directly next to you, while others allow you to attack multiple enemies at once, apply a variety of damaging effects on them, or provide aid to your allies. And this time around, you can take up to 3 companions with you into combat at once. And likewise, each of them has a whole host of different abilities that make them more or less useful in certain scenarios. So your best bet is to mix and match your team until you find the one that best suits your playstyle.
This might sting.
My body is strong.
Oh, I'm up? Sorry, I'm a little lightheaded. Take this!
I am like mountain.
Swooping in on a breeze of justice! Yes! Job done.
Another new addition are the Ultimates abilities that each character has. being able to use them only after your power meter is gradually filled up over the course of a battle, either by landing attacks or taking damage. And just like with the special attacks in the Stick of Truth, these abilities trigger a brief cutscene and are absolutely devastating to your enemies.
This is the part where the bad guys regret their life choices.
Of course, with you being the new kid and all, you also have some very effective farting abilities to fall back on, which can help you turn the tide of battle. But this time around, your farts are so powerful that they can actually reverse time, taking a turn away from your opponents, stopping them dead in their tracks. And just like in the Stick of Truth, you can also use your farts in tandem with your allies to better traverse the town, gaining access to blocked off areas and finding various hidden items needed to complete side quests, like rescuing all of Big Gay Al's missing cats, using the many different toilets in town, though this time around you don't have the option of throwing your own crap at enemies, or completing your collection of yaoi art, featuring Tweak and Craig, which can be found stashed in hidden locations all over town. Something else that's been changed though is that since you don't have any weapons and your outfits are purely for aesthetics, there's no equipment that needs to be upgraded, but instead you can find and even craft a variety of different artifacts that you can equip to make alterations to your various stats, which also apply to all of the allies in your party. And the more you level up, the more artifacts you can equip at one time. And speaking of crafting, you can also now make your own healing items, using a combination of ingredients that can be purchased from vendors around town. And these include things like revive potions, quesadillas, and burritos, plus some more potent creations that you can learn how to make from Freeman.
And just one more thing. They say that some farts are so powerful they can actually bend the fabric of time. You be careful out there.
Anyway, I tend to prefer this combat system over the one in Stick of Truth. Instead of having a near-endless list of items that can be added to a huge variety of armor and weapons, it's a much simpler matter of just choosing the best artifacts in your inventory and giving your character the abilities that you think will be the most effective in battle. And if you get tired of whatever classes you're playing as, you can return to the Coon at any time to swap them out for some other ones, which I greatly appreciated.
When he was 6 years old, his dad fucked his mom.
What?
I'm sorry, friend, but it's time they learned your tragic backstory. Butthole doesn't trust anyone because his dad fucked his mom and he couldn't do anything to stop it.
That doesn't make any sense.
I know. How could the person you trust do that to the only other person you love?
Cartman, everyone's dad fucked everyone's mom.
Huh?
That's how it works, stupid. Our dads fucked our moms.
Oh, right. So does that mean your dad fucked your mom, Cal? Huh?
Yes! My dad fucked my mom. That's why I'm here.
Don't steal his backstory, dude. That's not cool.
You're so fucking stupid! Every human alive on Earth had a dad who fucked their mom and—
Stop! This is not what's important right now. We need to find the lady with the dick tattoo.
Also, summons have made a return, and this time around we get a whole new mix, including Jimbo and Ned blasting away at enemies that are apparently coming right for them, Kyle's dad high as hell on cheese and flying an imaginary B-17 bomber, which is a nod to the episode Total Boobage, one of my personal favorites by the way. And if you have some macaroni pictures handy, you can even summon Moses to the battlefield to fully heal your entire party, which, needless to say, comes in very handy. And a big highlight in the gameplay of Fractured Butthole, at least if you ask me, is the huge variety of boss encounters that come up throughout the game. Some of my personal favorites are going toe-to-toe with wine-drunk Randy, facing down Professor Chaos in his massive mech suit made entirely of Mexican day laborers, running for your life from Spontaneous Butte as she tries to crush you with her massive cheeks, and finally squaring off with Butter's dad who has the uncanny ability to ground your allies. But you show him that somehow some kids are just ungroundable.
Sweet superwood! So satisfying!
Damn it, fighters, you're grounded for life!
I am? But I don't feel grounded. Hey, guys, I'm not grounded. I'm ungroundable.
No!
So the combat in Fractured But Whole is, I think, even better than the Stick of Truth. I really like putting different teams together and playing around with each character class's different abilities. Plus, I found the grid-based combat to be more enjoyable, as it offers a lot more opportunity for strategizing and playing to the strengths of each character. And likewise, I also enjoyed traversing the town and completing all of the side quests more than the previous game. The map is just as large, though some locations have been added or altered, and we once again get the ability to access fast travel points by hitching a ride with FastPass. And overall, though it's kind of a close call, I did enjoy the gameplay in Fractured But Whole a bit more than the Stick of Truth. Combat and exploring the town is a lot of fun. You have way more allies and different abilities to play with. There's once again plenty of side quests and hidden collectibles to uncover, and there's even some pretty cool DLC quests. On top of which, the story, writing, and performances are once again very funny, on par with, if not a bit better than what was on offer in the Stick of Truth. As Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and the rest of the writing staff at South Park Studios return to pen the story and all of the dialogue, which as per usual features quite a bit of crass humor, sarcastic parodying of the bloated superhero movie genre, and more than just a little social satire.
Well, well, well. If it ain't a cisgendered boy.
We don't take kindly to your types around here.
Let's welcome this thing to our town.
So South Park, The Fractured But Whole is a fantastic game. Once again, combining fun and robust combat with a hilarious and entertaining story integrated in a way that makes you feel like you're playing an interactive series of episodes of the show. And if you haven't played it yet, you are seriously missing out, as this is one of my favorite games from the last generation of consoles. And especially if you're a South Park fan, this is one game that'll have you smiling from start to finish. But South Park Digital Studios wasn't finished yet. Even though it took a while, they would eventually bring us and the new kid back to South Park for one final adventure.
If we proved anything tonight, it's that we are the best when we are all together. It's too late for that.
We all started as one team. We all wanted to be superheroes for the same reason. To sell our franchise and make millions of dollars. Let's be one team again.
I agree. Come on, guys, no more Civil War. Let's get the reward money for this cat and use it together for one franchise.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
But we're calling it Freedom Pals?
Freedom Pals.
And so, like, Timmy is sort of the leader of Freedom Pals? He's like the one in charge?
Yes.
Well, I think it's awesome. Honestly, Freedom Pals is a way better name than Coon and Friends. Freedom Pals. Freedom Pals. I'm super cool with this.
Then it's settled.
Tomorrow, we get the reward money for scrambles, and we use it to kickstart Timmy's franchise plan. Together. Freedom Pals, Retribution,
but with inclusion!
Fuck yeah, you guys. Let's do this.
Whoa!
There are at least 20 people dead, Tom. Reports of frozen water lines and even frozen bodies as this storm continues.
Did they catch us, kid? Did they catch us, kid?
Eric, it's horrible.
City officials are warning that even first responders will be staying home today. The roads are completely blocked. There is no toilet paper anywhere.
What a bad ski!
This truly feels like the end of days. Everyone, please, take care of yourselves.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Oh, and we've just received word that all Park County schools are closed for the day.
Yes! Yes! There's no skiing! It's a snow day!
In March of 2024, South Park Digital Studios would join forces with Question and THQ Nordic to bring us South Park Snow Day, which is again a direct sequel to The Stick of Truth and The Fractured But Whole, making this the New Kid trilogy. And this time around they completely dropped the traditional animated look of the previous games, and instead gave us the first 3D South Park console game since South Park Rally way back in 2000. And this was a serious point of contention with fans of the series, but we'll get to that in a bit. The story this time around has the boys going back to their fantasy role-playing roots when a massive blizzard sweeps across South Park, burying the entire town in snow and causing power outages, tons of structural damage, and even a number of fatal casualties. But more importantly, it means that school is canceled, so the kids now have the whole day to play in the snow. A problem though is that since you became too overpowered in the previous two games, all new rules had to be created to keep the game fair. But since no one could agree on what exactly the rules should be, faction warfare has once again broken out between Cartman, Stan, Kyle, and the rest of the kids in town. On top of which, there's some suspicion that this blizzard might actually have some kind of mystical force behind it, trapping South Park in a state of eternal winter. Can the boys set their differences aside for one final quest to defeat the forces of darkness and save their quiet little town? Something tells me that's gonna be a bit of a challenge.
Cartman, who are these assholes?
They're my secret army. We're attacking you before you attack us.
What are you talking about?
My spies saw your army gearing up for battle.
Your spies? What the fuck are you talking about?
Your spies, Kyle. They're your spies getting ready for battle.
Are you serious? Remember, there's no fighting allowed at the bullshit trial. This is sacred ground.
So the gameplay in Snow Day is nothing at all like the games that came before it. This time around being a fully 3D action-adventure game. You once again take control of the new kid and accept quests from Cartman that have you heading to various areas of South Park to fight opposing forces, including some pretty gnarly boss battles, in pursuit of riches, powerful artifacts, and an ever-expanding pool of abilities to play around with. You start the game with some pretty basic gear, just a sword and a bow, and you can perform both melee attacks and ranged attacks. Plus, you have the ability to launch yourself high in the air using a fart as a boost. And the various status effects like bleeding, burning, and gross out have made a return. Pretty early on in the game though, you can acquire more powerful weapons, including a sword and shield combo and different kinds of magical staves, to launch fireballs and other projectiles at enemies. And each quest plays out more or less the same. Go to an area, defeat a legion of enemies, and usually activate some devices or retrieve some mission essential items before moving on to your next battle. Something that has been added to shake things up though are the variety of different cards you can make use of, essentially getting all kinds of buffs and new abilities with each new card that you acquire, and the cards themselves can be powered up to boost their effectiveness. So you can have greater offense and defense, resistance to different status effects, or make your special attacks even more powerful than they already were. And you can increase the power of your cards by trading in toilet paper, which is the currency used in Snow Day, because as we all know, during a state of emergency, toilet paper is worth its weight in gold. And in addition to boosting cards, it can also be used to purchase new weapons and armor, as well as other various upgrades.
Cool.
Aside from the toilet paper though, you'll also want to be sure to collect all of the dark energy you can get your hands on, which is dropped by enemies and can be found in treasure chests. This energy can later be traded to Mr. Hanky for all kinds of cool stat boosts, again increasing your health, defense and offense, and combat abilities. And in pretty short order, as long as you're thorough with picking up toilet paper and dark matter, you can become a formidable foe indeed, with powerful strikes, fearsome long-range attacks, and farts that are absolutely deadly. The most contentious aspect of Snow Day's gameplay, and one that I myself don't really care for, is that this really is a game meant to be played online with other players, as your squad is comprised of 4 different characters. And if you're someone like me who really only enjoys single-player games, or sometimes the odd bit of couch co-op, this kinda sucks, as you can play through Snow Day 100% single-player. But the rest of your team will just be CPU-controlled allies, which would normally be fine, especially if those allies were characters like Cartman, Kenny, or Butters. But instead, they're just randomly generated NPCs, and their AI is pretty damn atrocious at times. Almost like the game is intentionally being shitty, just to make you want to play online. But the fine folks at THQ Nordic didn't take into account how antisocial some of us can be. So admittedly, I didn't get everything that Snow Day has to offer, and that's purely my choice. Still, I can say I did have some fun with this game. Running around blasting, hacking, and slashing enemies is pretty fun, and you get access to what the game calls bullshit cards. Essentially, cards with limited uses that allow you to utilize some ridiculous abilities in the heat of combat, like instantly grossing out all of your enemies, becoming virtually invincible for a brief period, or even calling down a rain of meteors to crush everyone on the opposing side. So you do have some fun abilities to play with, lots of cards to collect, and a nearly endless supply of enemies to lay a beating on. But on the other hand, this does get pretty repetitive after a while, and there are a lot of instances where the faulty AI practically ruins the game. Meaning that while Snow Day can be pretty fun in brief gameplay sessions, it suffers in the long run, and as such pales in comparison to the 2 games that came before it.
Oh shit! Princess Kenny is working with Stan! Uh-oh, that charming son of a bitch is gonna try and stop us with her big titties and her sultry kisses. I'm out of here! You must resist her feminine wiles.
Gameplay aside, the other big change was obviously the visuals, which overall are pretty good. South Park looks nice in 3D, though most of what you'll be looking at is just a bunch of massive mounds of snow. But still, running through residential areas and the town center looks pretty nice. And the character models also do a pretty good job of replicating the 2D art style. It's not perfect, mind you, they do look a bit wonky at times. But generally speaking, I was happy with the visuals and the sound design. The music and voice acting are all solid. But something I thought was especially funny is that most of your enemies are voiced by actual children. And it sounds like they had a lot of fun recording their lines. Also, the story, writing, and performances by the principal cast are once again really good. You get to interact with a wide variety of characters, like Randy Marsh, frozen in ice, Mr. Hanky in his Porta-John Fortress, Jimmy, who is not only a bard, but also the card dealer in this instance, and Henrietta from the Goth Kids clique, who can provide you with plenty of power-ups courtesy of the Dark God Cthulhu. It's not quite as robust as the previous games, but the dialogue is again very funny, and the story is fun to follow. Once again being written by Matt Stone, Trey Parker, and the rest of the South Park writing staff. So while I don't think it's nearly as good as its predecessors, Snow Day is a pretty fun game that's worth playing at least once if you're a fan of the series.
Honestly, those other new kids are all total boners, right, Butters?
Yeah. Why did you attack my fucking base?
Attack your base! Ha! Ha! Are you denying that you were gearing up your entire army to attack our fucking base?
Yeah. What? Says who?
Says Clyde!
Yeah. And do you always trust what Clyde says?
Hell no! Clyde's a total dumbass!
Yeah.
So that's it. All of the South Park games I could get my hands on. And what a hell of a ride it was. But to address the title and purpose of the video, the best South Park game, at least if you ask me, is The Fractured But Whole, which is a very fun and entertaining RPG that does the show justice in every way possible. But a close runner-up is The Stick of Truth, which is also an extremely fun and funny South Park RPG. But your best bet is to just play them both back-to-back and treat it as one big adventure. As for the worst game, there have been some pretty crappy South Park games, but I'll go with South Park Rally, for being a game that should have been a layup, but instead is an exercise in disappointment and frustration. But what do you think? What's the best South Park game you've ever played? And which one is the worst? Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, that's all for today. I'm all South Parked out. So until next time.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Awesome!